Another part for us was the mounting evidence from across the world that this hypothesis of shaken baby syndrome, which has been widely considered a medical fact, is now being described as junk science, and that there are possibly hundreds of parents who have been accused and convicted when they didn't actually hurt their children at all.
And just a reminder, shaken baby syndrome is when doctors see the triad of a brain bleed, eye bleed, and brain injury. And for a long time it has been believed that when infants present with this triad, it's always indicative of shaken baby syndrome, or as it's often called now, abusive head trauma. That is, a non-accidental injury. We'll hear now from someone who's been helping us with this case, retired paediatric pathologist, Dr. Irene Scheinberg. Dr. Irene Scheinberg.
In the UK, they caution people that they have to do a better differential diagnosis before getting to that conclusion.
You're welcome. Take care.
You have a nice day.
Thank you.
Before getting to that conclusion. And I remember talking to my pediatrician colleagues that in 2001, 2003, they said if you have a baby, is abused, and now when they teach the students, when she told me that 10 years ago, we tell them that it's a possibility of abuse, but they have to study the case very well, which was better than nothing.
Well, hopefully that answers some of your questions. But now to the recap of Season 1 of Fractured, and to remind listeners... Season 1 of Fractured. To remind listeners of the key points of Zita's case. Here's where it all... of Zita's case. Here's where it all started, as explained in episode 1.
The couple's nightmare began with the medical opinions from Starship Children's Hospital in Auckland. Starship is the leading paediatric provider in New Zealand and the South Pacific. Its medical opinions, or evidence depending on how you view this case, led to an 8-week-old baby being uplifted by New Zealand's Child Protection Agency. Police surveillance on her parents, a trial and conviction, a mother jailed, and her baby put under the care of the state.
In a nutshell, if you're just catching up with the story, the young couple at its centre, who we are calling Zita and Ravi, had married in their home country of India, then were both living their dream life in New Zealand with their newborn baby, who we call Baby K, when she became unwell. They took her to the doctor, who called an ambulance. She was taken to Starship Children's Hospital, where they discovered she had multiple fractures and a head injury. And in less than 24 hours, doctors diagnosed the cause as non-accidental.
And once the decision was made by the Starship Hospital's Child Abuse Unit, every agency fell into lockstep to support that decision. And we have seen this time and time again in our work, particularly our stories covering oranga tamariki and the uplifting of babies and children.
And in the case of Zita and Ravi, it's like watching a slow motion avalanche just bury this family. Here's a bit of an insight from season 1.
So you can't see your own child.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
Good, thank you. Yeah.
So you can't see your own child. Your husband's being asked to divorce you or leave you, and you're not even allowed to see your sister's children.
Yes. Now another thing that they are deporting me without my child, without my husband.
They're deporting you.
Yes.
That was from episode 2 of the first season, and just a quick reminder of the timeline. Baby Kay was put into foster care at 2 months old when she was taken from Starship Hospital. She was 2.5 when her mother went to prison, and 5 years old when her mother got out. After her release, Zita still wasn't allowed to have any physical contact with her daughter, so more than 3 years without any face-to-face contact. Baby Kay had spent 4.5 years in foster care placements before it was finally approved for her to be allowed to live with her aunt, and her father Ravi was allowed to live at the house as well, although he wasn't allowed to be alone with her and has no formal caregiver status. Just to refresh your memory, Ravi was found not guilty of ill treatment or neglect of a child, i.e. not taking Baby Kay to the doctor in a timely manner. Now, because Baby Kay lives in the same house with Ravi, that means Zita cannot live with Ravi, her husband, because she is not allowed to be anywhere near her daughter, so she has to reside at a separate property. And of course she faced deportation almost from the moment she was released from prison. And as we know, she applied for refugee status, which was declined. She has appealed, and at the time of recording this episode, we await that decision. But it's all very tenuous, and because her husband Ravi's visa is dependent on Zita's, he too faces deportation, while our Child Protection Agency, Oranga Tamariki, has secured an order from the family court to keep Baby Kay in New Zealand.
At this stage, the position of Oranga Tamariki is that if both the parents are deported, they will keep the child in New Zealand.
Now Joris de Brez talks about Ravi's plea to Immigration New Zealand.
He said the most heart-rending things to the Immigration Protection Authority.
Like what?
About how, you might as well give me a death sentence if you're going to keep my child in New Zealand and send me home. I cannot let you keep my child in New Zealand and make me go back to India.
On Sky News Australia, it's coming.
The coalition government is the only chance to get our country back on track.
The 2025 federal election.
If it gets into government, every Australian will be worse off.
Sky News brings you every big moment of the campaign trail, major press conferences, live updates, and crucial interviews. Stream every moment live on the Sky News Australia app. Conditions apply.
This is how US investing feels on stake. It's just fluid. You can tap into the world's biggest market on a platform that makes everything easier. Wall Street is effortless on stake. Get started on hellostake.com. Onwards. This is not financial advice.
I think now is probably a good time in the podcast to acknowledge that identifying child abuse is obviously a fine line to traverse, and we know it is a very difficult area to diagnose and to work in. But there are increasing concerns that the fear of missing child abuse is driving a culture of over-diagnosis.
And actually the consequences of what's been described as a better safe than sorry approach can result in kids being separated from loving parents who have not abused them, and that of course is devastating and abusive in itself.
We acknowledge it's a tough area because child abuse is real and no one wants to leave a child in an unsafe situation.
But there have been concerns about the Starship Child Abuse Unit over-diagnosing or misdiagnosing abuse for some time now. In some cases, judges have not sided with abuse diagnoses provided by the Starship team, but we are the first to admit this is a challenging issue.
Zita and Ravi and their supporters will tell you they were on a hiding to nothing from the get-go.
The lady doctor, she's not listening to us from the first day. She's pointing on us, saying that you did that. We both are responsible for that. Instead of doing any checks, anything, she just keep blaming from the first day that you did it. But they ignore everything. They said there is nothing, it's just a child abuse. They don't want to do second opinion.
Zita and Ravi say they tried to get the doctors to help them get a second opinion. They wanted to take their baby out of the hospital to see someone independent and asked Starship staff if they would accompany them.
That's because, of course, they were under 24-hour watch at the hospital, but taking their baby to another physician obviously never happened. What we do know is that in court, the Starship paediatrician said under cross-examination that while she had no objection in principle to the couple seeking an alternative opinion, she said, and I quote, "Because we are the specialist tertiary service, seeking a specialist opinion beyond our services becomes incredibly difficult in New Zealand."
And Ravi about the difficulty of trying to get another opinion.
And outside we can't do because we have no money. Everything money we pay to both of lawyer.
I think that it's been said a few times before in other stories that it's very hard in New Zealand because it's so small, and the medical establishments don't tend to go up against the medical establishment.
Yes, ma'am.
Too small. So we have to go outside of New Zealand, and we've had to do that in one of our other very recent cases.
All the doctors in Auckland, everyone attached with the Starship. So no one challenged to Starship. That problem.
So you're saying that doctors in Auckland are in some way attached to Starship, so no one challenged Starship?
Yes.
Because we see one of the doctors there and say, oh yeah, it's abnormal, blood reports are all abnormal, but I don't want to be a part of the legal team. So they just say, we can give you the information, but we can't help you.
So you're telling me at some point a doctor had said to you that your daughter's blood tests were abnormal, but the doctor didn't want to commit that to writing because they didn't want to be involved in the court case.
Yes.
But after listening to the trial episodes, some of you would be able to see why the authorities were convinced Zita had hurt her baby. And look, that is entirely the point. Because she had no outside experts in her defence, in some ways it was like hearing one side of the story. And of course, Zita and Ravi had that big argument the day before baby K was admitted to Starship Hospital. And there was no differential diagnosis given by the doctors.
We talked about this and the trial in episode 4 of season 1.
It was a jury trial in the High Court. The parents were represented by their own lawyers.
Legal
aid, yeah. They had lined up against them. They had, the Crown prosecutor and then the 4 medical witnesses.
I'm talking to Joris de